Welcome back to another episode of the Young Life Podcast. My name is Diego.
And I'm McKenna.
And joining us today, we have a hooper, certified hooper, who knows a lot about the game of basketball, Maddie Campbell.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Before we start, you could go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, yeah, hi. I'm Maddie. I played basketball at Clovis West for 4 years, and then I graduated and went to USC for 4 years to play basketball there. I just recently medically retired, so that was something that was hard for me, but also a long time coming. So yeah, among other things, I'm very thankful for everything I've learned along the way and just the whole process that has shaped me into the person I am today. So yeah.
Okay, and right here with me, I have a list of your accomplishments or achievements.
Wow.
Because these are really impressive, by the way. I'm not
Did
sure.
she send you these?
No.
That's nice.
I didn't even know that.
Wow. Okay.
Let's get started.
This is great.
4-time Valley champion, 1-time state champion.
Wow.
Definitely had over 1,000 points, I'd say, in your 4 years.
Did you?
in
I
high
had
school.
almost 2,000 actually.
Really?
I was going through my stuff the other day, like the archives you have like hidden in your closet or on your dresser or whatever. And I found like all these, like the balls that you like break a record in the game, and my dad would write on that ball. And I was like, I did not have these many points. He's like, yeah, you did. And I'm like,
Wow.
So it's crazy sometimes taking a trip down memory lane. So I'm like, what the heck?
That's insane.
Yeah, it was so long ago, but it was crazy.
Overall record of 127 wins and 14 losses.
Wow.
And I think the most impressive thing is the year that you guys won states, you guys were number 1 in the nation.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so like they didn't have a national championship, but
You guys would have won that.
I mean, I like to think so, but there were like a couple, like ESPN and Today, whatever, like a couple, I guess, news, I don't know what you call it, but just rankings that had us number 1. And as a public school, like getting that number 1 ranking obviously was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But when you really paused and thought about it, we were the only public school in like the top, I don't know what number, but you have private schools who have like 6'4", 6'6" people, or people who run like gazelles who could have like a 4.240. Like
Right.
it's crazy, like the athleticism we faced and the level of talent we faced, and people had like 5 D1 starters, and we were just over here doing our thing from Little Fresno, California.
Right.
So it was even cooler to do it alongside my dad, who was my head coach, but I think my high school experience was something like I would talk about forever, because it was just so cool, and the level of support I had, and I still have today. Like I'll go to the grocery store and people will like recognize me, and it's really cool to have like an impact on a community like Fresno, and like the little faces who aspire to do what like me and other people are doing. Like it's really cool, and it's very rewarding, I would say, is like the word I would put to it.
Now, if I remember correctly, the starting 5 all got scholarships that same year, right?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I was the youngest one out of like the top 6, so like the starting 5 and then like the 6th man off the bench. I was a sophomore, and the other 5 seniors beside me all went D1.
Yeah.
So that was crazy, because I'm just like, why am I playing with these girls? Because they are so good. Like it was so fun to play beside them, because they're just so good. Everyone can hit a shot, everyone can make a pass, everyone can, steal the ball in defense or get a big rebound. And it was so fun to play with them, because like we all talk every day still, and it's like, it's so cool. They're awesome.
What was the biggest key that you guys had to make you guys so successful and to win all those games?
So don't get me wrong. I think everybody looks at our team that year and is like, oh my gosh, you were so good, you must be so close. And I'll be the first to say, we had our problems. Like, we had drama, we had stuff go on that we had to squash immediately. Like, I remember there was a game earlier in December or January, and there was like stuff going on afterwards in the locker room. And we knew right then, the next day, that we had to have a team meeting, because we're like, we can't let this go further if we want to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I think that's something that most teams don't talk about, is they think everything's supposed to be sunshine and rainbows, when really, like, the best teams like stay focused, and if something happens, they're even more focused to like squash it. So
For sure.
I think everyone on the team that year can attest to like the stuff that we went through, but also the stuff that we were able to like get over to like, you know, do what we did. But that's something that I definitely think that most teams go through, but they don't even realize they're going through, you know? So we had to be mature about it and handle it like we did.
Another question, like, out of those 4 years, was there any games that you felt the pressure to perform in front of a crowd?
I would say I never really experienced that. Something my dad and I like still talk about is the fact that like it was like, you know, the brighter lights or the bigger stage, like I loved that. It was almost like the worst competition. Like I would not play my best game because I'm just like, oh, it's just, you know, little old whatever.
Right.
And then I go out there, and it was until I really adopted like a more mature mindset that I'm like, it doesn't matter who we're playing. So, you know, in the bigger games, it's like, oh, I live for this, I love this, and it's just an opportunity to surprise and shock even more people, you know? You remind yourself the people who were before you and, you know, the tradition they set, but also kind of the expectation for you. Like, I won this, or I've accomplished this, let's do more.
Right.
So that was kind of cool for like, I never really experienced any anxiety or nerves.
That's great.
To like a negative level. You should always be a little nervous or whatever. But it was fun because I didn't really ever experience that. I don't know how to put that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I was kind of like in that boat where like I would always be like nervous and anxious before games,
Yeah.
especially in front of like crowds.
Yeah.
And there was this one tip that I used to do that would really help me out, and I feel like many athletes could like do this. It's super easy to do. And what I would do was I'll go practice like my free throws. I'll go down the line, free throw line, and I'll have my AirPods in,
Yeah.
and I'll go on YouTube and I'll look up like look up videos on like crowd noises,
Really?
Yeah.
crowd sound
Really?
effects.
Yeah.
Have that playing in my ear like for an hour straight, and then when you get locked in, you don't even like realize like it's in your ear.
Really?
You become like almost deaf to the noise. Like
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
it is like a crazy concept. Like our playoff weeks and like championship weeks, we would like hook up the speaker to like the gym speaker, and like they would play, you know, like they do that in like NFL practices. So
Really?
my dad's such like a sports nerd that he like sees that, and he's like, oh my gosh, we have to do that. Like the most
Wow, that's
successful
cool, though.
teams, the most successful teams are doing it, so we have to do it. So, you know, like you said,
Yeah.
Diego, when you get to the free throw line and you hear all this noise, it's like, what noise?
Right.
So it was
Wow,
cool
that's
because
cool.
we're like, we can handle this. This is nothing.
Yeah. I also took it a step further because like if I had a away game coming up, instead of like cheering noises, I'll put like overrated chants or like
Yeah.
I'll play like
Stop!
blues
You did
stuff.
not.
Yeah.
Because I
it's
know the
funny.
student sections would totally
Yeah, the
say
student
that.
Oh my
sections
That's
are
gosh.
funny.
The student sections are brutal.
That is funny.
They will find out like the most personal information
No,
and just
100%.
dump it out for anybody to hear.
100%.
And you just have to
It's
block it
gone
out.
to a different level.
Yeah.
for
Oh my
sure.
gosh.
That's funny.
They will make it so
What was it
personal.
like in college, like with the student section? Was it the same vibe as high school?
So COVID unfortunately like ruined a lot of that. We had to have a lot of games that had 0 fans. So that definitely affected it. I would say like my freshman season, before we experienced any COVID related stuff, there were some mean fans. Like, you know, Clovis Unified, you have all these rules, like you can't say this from the student section, you
You
can't
can't even boo at the refs.
No, you
Right.
can't. Even like in college student sections, people can show up literally shirtless, paint
Really?
their stomachs with letters, and they can whatever, they can do certain things. So it's really cool to see that because it's like, wow, you know, some high schools can do that, but we never got to do that. So it was cool to see that and be like, whoa, this is a college game.
Right.
But also, yeah, they would get crazy because there was no like admin to be like, stop.
Right?
And so they would be saying some crazy stuff, but you know, that's the fun of the game. But yeah.
One thing I really wish in high school was that I wish we could charge the courts after like a big win.
Oh my gosh,
We
like
just
storming
couldn't
the
do
court.
that,
Yeah. Storming the court
Yeah.
was probably like, I know they did it for like one boys game in high school, and I made sure to go get in that
Right.
storm, but yeah, we never had that for girls basketball, but I know we would have if they could. I know we definitely would have had some storm the courts.
Yeah, there was a lot of good games. I went to like almost every single game, I would say. And I'm not gonna lie, like it was such a like honor like watching you ball out there.
Thank
Like
you.
like you're just unstoppable. Like that high school, your whole 4 years,
Wow,
like
that's
no
cool.
one could guard you. Like you're just hitting everything. Like I don't know, like that's just
Well,
that's hard.
I will say you were one of our number one fans.
For
Thank
sure, I
you.
can see that.
Literally at everything. Like
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
always riding the what's it called? Like
The
the
Rooters
Spirit.
bus?
Yeah, the Rooters bus.
Stop.
Like he was at everything.
That's perfect.
And he would see us at school the next day and be like, "Good job, you did so good." And I'm just like, "I love you, Diego. Like you're the best." But no, it was definitely we had some diehard fans, like high schoolers all the way up to like I'm not gonna say old people, senior citizens.
You're right.
But yeah, it was so cool. It was so cool.
Mhm. I think something that's impressive is like you got a ring before Chris Paul, and he's been in the league for like 4 years or something.
Oh my gosh, I did.
Wait, what? I'm confused a bit.
There's this NBA player, Chris Paul.
Right, I know Chris Paul.
He's been in the league for like so long, and
Right.
everyone talks about how he doesn't have
Oh,
a ring
really?
yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I
He's
see.
ringless.
That's sad.
It is.
I don't know why I feel bad for him.
Oh, sorry.
Well, he's
Oh,
on the
sorry.
Warriors now, right?
True.
Yeah, so he should, right?
That's my team.
It
Oh,
is.
really?
So I'm really rooting for Chris Paul now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I noticed that you wore number 23 like your whole career, like high
Yeah.
school and college.
Mhm.
Was there a meaning behind that number?
Okay, so funny story. Let's rewind all the way back to like
Mhm.
Little League soccer and like even softball, whatever. And my dad's always telling me, you need to like find your number, And I'm just like, I don't have a number, it's fine. Like I was trying to be as low maintenance as possible,
Mhm.
like not demanding, I need number 2 or whatever.
Right.
So I would literally get whatever age I was that year. So if I'm
Really?
7, I would get the number 7. If I'm
That's
8, I'd get the
cute.
number 8. All the way up until I was 9, they didn't have the number 9. So I'm like, what the heck? I gotta figure something out. So I picked the number 2. Just, I don't know what it was. It was visually appealing. I don't know. Like I just
Right.
picked number 2. And then, all the way up until like something like middle school maybe, there was a girl who was older than me who was actually my point guard in high school. Danae, if you're watching this, I still hold a grudge for you taking my number.
I feel like that is such a common thing.
Yeah.
Like you're young, someone's always gonna have your number. Like even in elementary school, I feel like it was you versus someone else for
Yeah.
a number.
Yeah, so she was 2 years older than me, but we both had number 2. So there was only one number 2 in that size. And so I was like, okay, well shoot, I've had number 2 for about, I don't know how many years,
Mhm.
but now I gotta find a new one. So I'm like stressing, I'm like, Dad, you made me pick a number and now it's not available to
Right.
pick, so help me pick a new one. So he said his favorite number growing up was 23, and Michael Jordan
Right.
is my GOAT. So I was just like, I feel like 23 is kind of calling my name. So it was something that almost was like a family heirloom. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it was cool to be able to wear 23 because I played for my dad, and he wore that number, and then 23 was Jordan's number. So that was something when I got to college, I was like, I need that number because I'm not Maddie without 23. So it was something that like kind of stuck ever since then.
Did you feel like you ever had to like have like high expectations for wearing a number that's like so like looked up on? Like everyone like wants that number. Like
Yeah.
if you're wearing 23, you better like ball out. You know?
Yeah. Especially like it was funny because when I left Clovis West, I'm like, who is gonna wear my jersey? Because
Right, retire it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Honestly,
Someone
no.
pick it up.
no one can wear it ever. No. It was funny because I'm like, who's gonna wear it? And then a freshman took it over and she ended up doing her thing. So I was
Wow,
like, way to
cool.
There you go.
represent. But yeah, it was funny. I'm like, Dad, you can't give it to just anybody. But yeah, good question.
Wait, did you ever get female athlete of the year?
I did at Kasner. I actually
Okay.
played badminton, so I could get.
Oh, nice.
Really?
I was like, I need to play 4 sports, so I played badminton, and I was 1 singles, and I got killed every single match because the 1 singles is so good. And I was like, I told my coach, I was like, I don't want to be 1 singles anymore. But she was like, no, you deserve it, whatever. And so that built character. That definitely built character. Was getting killed every game, and I think I got like 1 or 2 points every game. in badminton.
Okay.
But they didn't know you were a basketball pro, so they didn't.
No, but they killed me and it's fine. It was humbling. But no, in high school I got Female Athlete of the Year with this other girl,
Cool.
Abby. So she was a beast at swimming. So that was definitely an honor. But yeah.
Was there any other awards that I was missing out on that you want to add on?
I mean, covered like
There's so many.
you didn't miss any of the rings or the championships
No,
or
I
the
mean-
national title. Like I don't. That's crazy already in itself.
Thank you. I mean, there was like some postseason every year. California does like these nominations, or like I got all state like freshman to senior, or I got like first team for like league MVP or whatever. But I think one of the biggest, like the coolest things for me was I would get nominated for like California Gatorade Player of the Year, or I got a McDonald's All-American nomination. And I played in a different All-American game my senior year. It was like Under Armour, like something All-American. So that was cool. But I think the nominations and like the team awards were more important than like individual stuff of like All-State, all this, all that. Because it's just like, you're beside so many greats that it's like, okay, yeah. Like, I don't know, it was an honor, but I think other stuff was like cooler, like we won team stuff. Because there's people who get like individual awards but never win a ring. So I'm like, okay, I'd rather have, a ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely cool.
I have a question
Yes.
about the relationship with you and your dad in basketball. I think is so unique to other players.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool that he was a part of that. What was it like having your dad be there on the court and off, and his
Man.
leadership and how it shaped you? Because if I was around a coach all the time, like it'd be so different of a life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's something we still talk about. I'm like, you made my life hell. Like, like even from a young age, like he's instilling in my mind, like they talk about now the Mamba mentality. We had that without like the label of it, but we're just like, you need to go above and beyond if you want to be great. Like these team practices aren't going to be just enough. You have to work out on your own. So I really adopted that mindset of I would go shoot before school, or I would shoot during lunch, or I would go, and by shoot I mean just any workout, like shooting workout, ball handling, I would run, I would go lift. Like I would do all of this before school, sometimes during lunch, but not so much. I would literally take his keys and go at midnight and go shoot. Like that was a stress relief for me. So that, like all those hours I clocked in accumulated, and it allowed me to be the best version of myself. I would say, touching back to your question of like the relationship between me and my dad, so that was what he taught me, but more so like our dynamic. Freshman year and sophomore year were tough because he, like being a coach's daughter, it has a lot of pressures and expectations that come with it, as well as like doubts. People are saying you're only on varsity because your dad, you're only playing because your dad, you're only. I was starting as a sophomore, and he's like, oh, like people are saying this and that, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, I bust my butt to get here and to do all this, and so he was even more hard on me to really like push me so that I myself could prove that I deserve to be here, and that, yeah, you can have an off game, but you have to live up to like the expectations I have for you. And then in turn, like make those your own expectations for yourself, like make that the standard. So that was crazy because I'm just like kind of sometimes overwhelmed. Like he's calling timeouts during games to grab me by the jersey and get in my face and, motivate me. And I'm just like taking it. I'm like, okay. There's times where I wanted to cry and there's times I did cry. But it was like, I will never trade that for anything. Because I learned so much, we got so much closer junior and senior year. We're accomplishing so many things that we lost all that talent. So after that, it was me and two other girls. We were juniors, all three of us. We had been playing since 4th grade together. And then we have a couple freshmen coming in that have potential. So really, like, it's our team now. And if he didn't prepare me those first 2 years, like, I don't know what we would have done after that. So The father-daughter dynamic is like crazy because we would go home and he would bring it to the dinner table and we would be driving to like tournaments or games and we'd be driving back from them and he'd be like lecturing me and I'm trying to put my headphone in and he's like, get that out. And I'm just like, I don't want to listen anymore. But, you know, it's something that I look back on and I'm just so thankful for because it really did make me into who I am today because they talk about sports teach you lessons for life. Like literally life lessons, and I can 100% attest to that, mainly from my dad. So that was something that I will forever cherish because my dad didn't have to be that amazing, you know, and hand on the Bible, he's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest that I have ever witnessed. He's like so smart, I could pick his brain all day, but yeah, he's awesome. So Dad, I secretly kind of love you.
I had to ask that just because I feel like it's less common to have a father who's really into women's sports.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like I think of Kobe and his daughter and him coaching as well. I literally compare that to you, and I think it's like I always looked up to Kobe for doing that and like being there for his daughter and like, you know, he's a boy, it's like a little bit different for him, but he was like still on her, still like, and he would also compliment her in women's basketball so much and just would be like, she's better than me at my age.
Yeah.
Like that's, as a man, that's just great to see, and I love men and fathers like being that for a women's sport when it's kind of like not in their zone.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit different than what they know.
100%. And like, I love the term girl dad.
Right.
Because it's like, you know, many dads like, you know, look forward to having a boy for sports and they want to be the beast and they want to be whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think it's cool that like Kobe, like my dad embraces that, and I have a younger sister who's going through it now. She's 11, and so I'm watching it firsthand and I'm like, buck up because you're gonna go through it, but you're gonna thank him in the end, you know. So it's cool to see the dynamic, like, you know, after going through it, seeing it firsthand again. So it's cool.
I also wanted to add on, I think your dad has a really impressive resume because, believe it or not, let me get this straight, 11 straight championships, right?
Wow.
Yes.
That is insane.
He's a machine, literally.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to stop. I think he's going to keep going.
No, I'm interested to see if he, like, stays for my sister to go through high school. So
wow, that would be awesome.
I will ask him, and he's still like, I don't know. So if I don't know, I guess it's
It must be hard to put down your career if it's been that successful. I can't imagine like wanting to put it away.
Yeah, no, he's getting,
that's great.
Like, he has some college interests, like, hey, come coach for our university, and he's just like, I'm happy here. So, you know, maybe one day he'll decide to do that, but until then, he's happy here, and I love that for him, because he's definitely built, like, a dynasty, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Also, would you ever, like, follow his footsteps and become a coach yourself?
You know, post-grad, like, post-college grad, I get that question all the time. All the time. Like, you know, do you want to get into coaching? I'm actually currently a ref on the weekends. Like, I am an AAU referee, and I'm doing, like, it was 4 times a week. Now it's slowed down, so now it's, like, 2 times a week, and I'm, you know, still in it and talking to coaches that I played against, and just seeing all the young faces is really cool. And I get these questions from coaches that I know all the time, and they're like, you know, do you want to get into coaching? Do you want to stay reffing? Do you want to stay tied to the game? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, coaching is so fun to me and so rewarding, but I don't know if I want that for my life. I think I've seen a lot of stress and a lot of him go through that, and my boyfriend is a college coach now, so I'm like, maybe I won't do that. I don't know. So
I think when you have great coaches, you kind of already take a step down, at least from my experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever coach in anything.
Yeah.
Not because I couldn't do it, I think I could be good, but like in general, like the longevity of it, the effort that never ends, that your reputation's on the line, that, you know, everything gets blamed on the coach. If, you know, someone's underperforming or trying to be the star too much, saying the right thing, wrong thing, like, there's a lot of pressure you take as a coach.
Yeah. Especially, like, if I coach, I want to go to somewhere that, like, you know, has potential for me to flourish. I don't want to go somewhere, if I'm a coach, where, you know, it's tough and it's challenging in a negative way. Or, you know, nowadays the media is everywhere. like when I was in high school, the media was there, but it was more like a controlled media. And my dad would deal with stuff and he would like get media coverage, but it wasn't as, so much as it is today. So I think that would also be tough to navigate because you're always under a microscope and you're always dealing with something. And I would not want that everywhere.
For sure.
So I don't know. But more so on the basketball side, I just think it's so tough. It's literally like 25/8 all the time. And like 365 days a year. So it's tough. And I'm just like, I'll just clap you on. I'll just cheer you on and just support you and whatever. But I know I would be a good coach, but I just don't.
It's a different type of exhaustion.
It is. It is.
It's great and fun, I'm sure. Because especially you living through it, you seeing, I'm sure you would see players that remind you of you when you were little.
All the time.
That was a lot of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would keep you tied a little bit, but at the same time,
There's this one girl I saw when I was reffing, maybe a month ago, and she was her and her friend were playing on the boys' team.
What?
And most people don't know this about me, but I played on my brother's team in 5th and 6th grade. And it just seeing her ball out, do her thing, cross boys up, shoot, do a layup over a boy who's trying to block her and it goes in. I'm just like, you are badass, that is so cool. And so I went up to her coach. I'm like, hey coach, tell number 0 she's gonna be good someday, and tell her I said that. And she came up to me after and was like, coach, I just wanted to meet you. It was so cool. And so little things like that are rewarding because I'm like, that was me. And I wish somebody would have said that to me to even push me that much more. So I'm gonna be that for younger kids who want to be great someday. And yeah, it was just special. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually got the chance to coach for baseball.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old team, and it's really it is really challenging and hard, and it is very different from playing the sport. But I feel like coaches have to have really good knowledge of the game to be able to coach. And I don't know, you just have to have a game plan ready and just know what you're doing.
It takes a specific person to be a great coach.
Yeah.
Very specific person. Even in elementary, some people that just took on coaching just to, take it on.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a great coach and just, a coach that's there. And it doesn't even have to be on a collegiate level, literally elementary level even, but it takes such a specific coach to be good and be able to even take the pressure of parents. Because you have to deal with parents at any level.
Yeah. It's kind of what you said earlier about I put in headphones and I would listen to crowd noise. It's metaphorical in this sense of coaches have to block out all the noise, and coaches have to, even as a player, you hear the student section yelling and you hear, so I think it all is metaphorical for that of just focus on what you're doing, and it's so tough, but I mean it's easier said than done for sure. Yeah.
And also I feel the hard part is seeing an ump or a ref ruin the game for some people. I just hate seeing that as a coach perspective. And the kids will get mad over every single bad call, and I just have to tell them you can't control what they call. It's just life. You just have to go through it. But yeah, definitely a lot of frustration calls will come to many athletes.
I have a funny story for that actually.
Uh-huh.
was this one game we played, I want to say it was preseason, and we played like number 14 in the country or something.
Oh, wow.
They came to Clovis West and played, I don't know what year it was, but swear on anything, the same ref gave me all 5 fouls. All 5. There are 3 refs and the same ref, all 5 fouls. And so I fouled out, we lost the game, and I'm just like, bro, what could I have done? Because it's like, okay, 3 of the fouls were fouls. But like, 2 of the fouls, I'm just like, I wasn't even in the play, or I didn't touch her, so I definitely understand. Oh my gosh, gives me nightmares, no I'm kidding. But yeah, that was definitely a stress that a lot of athletes
The
go
life
through.
lessons we talked about.
Right.
When you just said that's life, like having to tell a kid that's life and they don't know anything about, they think things should be fair because it's always tried to be fair, but like reality is, in sports especially, like it's just not fair.
Yeah, because at that time it's like the biggest thing in the world for you. And I'm like post-college and I'm just looking back, I'm like, that was so minor. Seriously?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so even like what we were talking about earlier, like off the record about like relationships and like you think that breakup is gonna like end your life and like all like just bring you down, and you're looking back, you're like, are you serious?
I feel like it's also a little bit
Right?
the opposite as well. Like, I could imagine for you talking about USC, it kind of seems a little less than what it was. Because I think, like, when you just say USC, but like, that's crazy to like the rest of the world, to like be in that campus, to be at that great school competing against the best of the best. Like, it's a bigger thing than you probably think, because you kind of like minimized it to just like going to school and practice.
Yeah, and that's something that people like will bring up to me. They're like, why are you like making it not a big deal? And to me, in my head, it's kind of like, well, I was injured almost the whole time, so it doesn't feel that special, or, you know, whatever, XYZ. But I'm just like, okay, maybe like I did dedicate a lot, or maybe I did sacrifice a lot. Maybe I did kind of like, you know, put my life on the line to sacrifice everything for basketball. Maybe I should like be proud of it, but it's also the fact of like, I guess, I don't know, be humble, be this, be that. So to anyone listening, be proud of yourself and be proud of like how far you've come, and it's okay to like hold your head a little high sometimes and just appreciate your parents' sacrifice and your own sacrifice. So I guess that's my little 2 cents, my little nugget to anyone listening.
For sure.
Is kind of relating a little bit. Yeah.
Now let's talk about you heading into USC. So first of all, what made you choose USC?
I would say, like, my recruiting process was, like, not as fun as I should have made it. I took it too serious, and I kind of found it daunting, actually. It was so overwhelming, and I just didn't handle it well. I mean, I handled it as best I could, but in the end, I was so ready to just make a decision and get it over with and find my home for the next 4 years. And so I committed my end of junior year. I picked USC because they had proven to me that they were ready to take me in, and they always said, you know, you're not family for 4 years, you're family for 40 years. And that was something I'm like, oh, you're right, because, you know, basketball's not forever, and whatever, I want to have a degree that's going to take me places. And that was the next thing. I want a heavy degree, something that holds weight after I graduate, and something that can take me far and can just, you know, like,
Connection.
pave a path for me. Exactly. I met so many people during my 4 years. Another thing was it's 4 hours from home. So not only did I never have to pay for a plane ticket, but I could come home whenever I wanted if I had a break. And there were times I decided within an hour, like, okay, I'm going to drive home. And you don't get that when you're a plane flight away. So that was something that was important to me. Like, you know, being such a big family person was, I want to be able to see my family, and I want my family to be able to come see me when they can. So, you know,
Perfect choice, it seems like.
Also the great weather. But
And the same colors in high school, you know,
yeah,
Cardinal
you know,
Gold.
I have been Cardinal and Gold since middle school. And
Oh,
I'm
I
like-
see, I see.
I'm just like, I can't get away from these colors. But yeah, it was definitely a good choice for me.
Did you ever get to meet any like popular athletes like Caleb Williams or Boogie Ellis?
Yeah, so actually you run into them every single day.
Oh,
You
wow.
are always in the same complex, like, you know, the athlete dining hall, or, you know, there's JMC, which is for field athletes that like track and swimming and soccer, football. And then there's Galen Center, which is across the street, which is for men's and women's basketball, men's and women's volleyball, and beach volleyball. So you're in different like buildings, but you're all in the same campus, which is about, if you walk from end to end, it's 10 minutes. So you're living in the same place, the same like buildings, you're in the same, so it's really cool to see like faces that are so normal to you. And like, meanwhile, I have people in my phone talking about, can you give me an autograph from so-and-so? And I'm just like, that would be so weird for me to walk up to like someone and be like, can I have your autograph?
Has that
Like,
kind of changed your perspective? Like, I know we're from a small town, and I think that celebrities hold a lot of like, and names hold a lot of like
yeah.
power. What was it like going to school there and like being so normal? Is your outlook changed?
Yeah,
on people?
so someone first described college to me, like especially at the D1 level, as you go from being a big fish in a little pond to being a little fish in a ginormous like ocean, which is so true. I go there and no one knows my name, no one knows what I've done in high school, no one knows like anything about me. Whereas Fresno, everyone knew everything about me, and everyone knew what I could do on the court and knew the person I was off the court. And you get to USC and everyone's like the top player from whatever team they came from. So there's a lot of egos, there's a lot of whatever, but there's also a lot of like, you know, friend making to do. And like, it sounds kind of childish to say friend making, but you literally make so many friends every day that I still talk to. And I guess back to your question of like, did you meet people? Not only was there college people to meet, but there was like pros walking in the facility. I met Breonna Stewart, who's in the WNBA. I met Derrick Rose. I met DeMar DeRozan. One of my teammates met Michael B. Jordan. Some met Chris Brown. Some met Billie Eilish. I actually watched one of her like run-throughs, like a rehearsal of Billie Eilish. So
wow.
It was like crazy. They would shut down the facility for like a video game tournament. It was just like crazy. There was always something happening, and it's LA and it's USC, and there's, you know, basketball teams practicing in our practice courts. Like Jalen Green and the Houston Rockets were in there, and then there's the Clippers practicing, and we're just like, what the heck? Why is this our normal? Why is this our normal? So it was crazy, but yeah, it was something that I'm like, this is not normal.
But then you probably realize they're so normal, aren't they?
Yeah,
like
they are normal people, and it's crazy because you look at these people and you're like, they're celebrities, but you're like, no, they're just like me.
Wow,
we're humans.
Very
right?
Cool.
We're humans.
Right.
I don't know. It was so
It's
fun.
probably weirder in person.
Yeah.
Because just hearing someone's name, you never think you're going to see them. And when you do, I don't know how that would be. Probably very not how you expect it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
they're not like the movies.
Yeah. Or even on the
really
funnier side, like back to, you said, oh, they're so normal. You would see like Michael B. Jordan and you're like, oh, he's short. Like,
stop. Did you think that?
Yeah. He was short in person, and it's so funny because you're like...
I think you're just tall, that's why.
I don't think you're that tall. I mean, like...
Thank you.
Wait, how tall are you?
First of all, I like tall. I like being
there's nothing
tall
wrong with being
myself.
tall,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
No,
I'm kidding. I'm officially 5'11",
Okay.
which in the past like 4 years I've grown an inch.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always been listed at 5'11", but I've never been officially 5'11" until ironically after I finished basketball. But you know how that goes.
There's super tall people in the WNBA though, right?
Oh my gosh, there's like 6'10" people.
Yeah, like that's, you can't be that, you're not that tall.
No. Thank you.
That's a great thing though, like tall is so great. I feel like not a lot of girls are tall.
My mom always has me reach the top shelf.
Really?
She's 5'2", and she's like, you're a tall
She's
one.
5'2",
yes.
and you're 5'11". Wow.
My
How tall is your dad?
6'6".
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That even...
I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that dynamic happened in the first place. No, I'm kidding. 5'2", 6'6".
They always talk about that, how short girls get the tallest guys.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
gosh.
A phenomenon. I don't know if that's
I'm
true,
like,
but
okay,
in that
Mom.
case it is still.
So funny.
Alright, we could talk a little bit about your injury, because I don't remember like every like detail of it, but I do know it was like a very big deal, and it was a career-ending one, I guess you could say. Can you just go through that, how it like went down, all about it? And stuff?
Yeah. So I had 2 bulging discs in high school, like my senior year. So it was very tolerable. Like the pain was playable and everything. But once I got to college, like it was in my lower back, so those 2 spots were weakened. Okay, so I mean, I mentioned like the immediate feelings of like, okay, my season's done and I don't feel like I can move my legs right now, or I can't particularly lift a finger or my arm. So like, I guess that was difficult. Fast forward 3 months later, like there was a lot that happened in those 3 months, but 3 months later it was decided that I'm getting surgery. After, PT that didn't work and just straight up rest that didn't work, and I had a couple epidural shots that didn't work, and this and that. So surgery took place, and it was a 12-month recovery, which, I don't know, 12 months doesn't seem that long when you say it, but when you put it into perspective, it's longer than an ACL recovery. It's longer than, just whatever. So from the last time I played a game in high school to like my first game in college was 18 months. which was like, you know, I had my whole redshirt year. I sat on the bench and I saw everything. I saw, you know, people succeed and what they did to do that, and I saw people fail, and I took note of, oh, okay, if I were in that position next time, what would I do too? So you learn a lot sitting on the bench, but it's also so mentally challenging to just, like, you kind of hold a grudge of, like, why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
I had pity party after pity party, and, you know, I would see a therapist for it. Like, we had team psychologists in college, which is one of the biggest blessings that I didn't even expect to come to me. But yeah, I had to work through my own stuff, and, like, you know, physical therapy was, like, tough. Like, rehab was tough. My first exercise was lying on my back, and I had to try to flex my core and, like, feel something in my, like, abdomen region. And it was so humbling because I'm just like, what the heck? So once I got that injury, it was kind of like downhill from there, in the sense that I would roll my ankle, or one time I got a bone bruise, or I would get a crack in my knee. Like, I literally fractured my knee. Had to wear a brace. Played on it for a couple weeks until it was, like, no longer tolerable. Someone had to, like, yank me back and be like, sit down. So I would just have little minor injuries, and it was so frustrating because I could never get my footing in college. I could never get my footing. I think I was healthy for like 15 games out of like over 120 or something like that. Like, I was never healthy, and it was so hard to, okay, I'm back on the court, I'm in practice, how do I feel like myself again? And I know that's something, I've talked to so many athletes who have experienced injuries, and they can all say the same thing, like, once you have a major injury or a surgery or something, you never feel like yourself again, and it's so hard. So my junior year, I'm feeling pretty close to the Maddie that I was in high school, and it was exciting, and I was like finding my love back for the game, and I don't know, I just start feeling like tinglings in my legs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's like a very big symptom for back surgery or back injuries. And so I start feeling like little sensations in my legs, and I tell my trainer, and you know, I get an MRI, and it turns out that not only were my discs herniated, the same one that I had surgery on the first time, they were herniated, they were both torn, they were both degenerative, which means they were like breaking down, like kind of like, imagine like a crumpled up piece of paper. It's like just not, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. But, and then I had stenosis, which I don't really know what that means, but apparently it's bad. And so I had to kind of take it upon myself to find a surgeon who could get me back out on the court. That's all that mattered to me. That's all I wanted to do. I was so driven to finish my college career on a good note and, you know, beat the odds and do all these things. And I'm just like, I'm going to do it. And everyone's like, you're done playing basketball. And I'm like, bet. You know, no, I'm not. That's even more reason for me to prove you wrong. And it was almost like tension with myself, because I was like, I came into college expecting to do all these things. And I had imagined like such a big future for myself for those 4 years. And it was really tough because it was not looking good when I was looking for a surgeon, and there was no USC surgeon who could do the surgery I needed. So finally I found a guy who said that he wanted to do a 2-level disc replacement on me, which I'm like, what the heck? So you're gonna take out 2 of my discs and put in 2 little pieces of plastic, and I'm gonna be okay. So, you know, talking to my family and all that, like, I decided to trust this guy, and turns out it's the best decision I've ever made for myself. I was out for about, I want to say like 6 months before I finally got answers. So it was hard, it was tough, and I'm just like a sitting duck, just waiting, all this like gray area, just like not knowing what's next. And he says that he can get me back out on the basketball court. And I'm like, there's no way, like, you know, there's no way. But then I'm like, okay, you know, let's go through with it. So I get the surgery, they cut through my stomach. It's about a 5-inch scar under my belly button. And they had to go in, move my organs to the side, and take out my bad discs and put in good discs that are artificial. And I wake up and I'm just like, what the heck? I feel like my whole body was just like rummaged through. Like, it was like almost disgusting because I'm just like, how did this just happen? Like, why did I consent to this surgery? I don't know. So the crazy thing about back surgery is you're up and walking right after. To get out of the hospital, I had to walk across the room and back. And it was like, I thought I was gonna like fall over and die in that moment. And I don't know, I could go on and on about that like first week post-surgery. Like for example, like 24 hours later, I take off my bandages and I see the scar and I start crying. And my mom starts hugging me and she's like, it's okay, sweetie, like scars show what you've been through, you know. And my boyfriend's taking care of me and he's like helping me sit up and sit down and like lie down and like, you know, sit back up on my own, and he's moving my pillows for me, and my brother's putting my socks on, and my dad is making my meals for me. And it was the most humbling experience I have ever been through, because I go from doing this in high school to not being able to like bathe myself and dress myself, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like, almost like a sense of like, God, why are you doing this to me? And it was just so crazy. So, you know, you sign your national letter of intent or whatever to go play for 4 years in college, and next thing you know, you're like having to medically retire. So like I said, it was like a long time coming, but long story short, I just am so grateful because the person I am today, the stuff I've gone through, just the ways like I've grown, I don't think without this injury I could be the same person I am today, and like inspire people and help people go through what they're going through. And like, I couldn't give the advice that I have today. You know, if I had such a successful college career, I would not like have the advice that I have. Like,
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say, I'm sure what went through your head the entire time was, this could have been so different. I could have had a more even successful career coming out of high school. Like, I did all of this. I could have scored that many points in college. Like, just thinking about all the what ifs. But again, we talked about you taking people under your wing and being able to do that. I think you have to have a different perspective of life and know that people need that when they do, because you've been through things. And I think even if you did have this crazy, insane career with no injuries and just like perfect, you wouldn't have the lessons you have. And I feel like you learned way more and got so much more out of being in the position you were in.
Right.
Even though, you know what I'm saying, you would look at it negatively.
And it got to the point where like people would start calling me like mom on the team, because I was just like, I mean, the oldest daughter always has a stereotype for being like the natural caretaker, and I kind of like didn't realize that until people started calling me like mom. And I'm like all my teammates were like mom, or like even grandma sometimes. I'm just like, because I didn't ever leave the house, and I'm just like, what the heck? So it was crazy because you really are able to experience a whole different side of yourself. I'm a firm believer that injury allows you to take a step back in life and examine who you are as a person and who you want to be. And a lot of athletes kind of get like tunnel vision in their identity. They think sport makes them everything, and I am basketball, and I am football, and I am soccer, whatever your sport is. And my advice to any high school or college athlete would be to find a hobby. Figure out what you like to do outside of your sport, because when it's taken from you, what are you going to do? Like, who are you?
For sure.
What is your plan next in life? Because, you know, I had dreams of playing in the WNBA, and like that was my goal. That was my plan for myself. And I get to college and I'm healthy for 15 games. That is not, you know, I had to find hobbies and I had to figure out how to cope with that. So all the time away from sports like really allowed me to be the person I am today. So that's something for sure.
Did going through injuries like change your overall attitude towards like self-care and just, you know, treating yourself and making sure that your health is where it's at, where it needs to be at?
Oh yeah. Like all these, you know, I mentioned earlier, like I would go late at night to go work out or shoot. now I can stay in and do like a whole skincare night. Like I
Love that.
I can stay up and watch Netflix, and I can make
love
myself
that.
popcorn, or I can pour myself a glass of wine, and I can just, like I'm a bitch.
Kick it. Yeah.
Like you would be able to do things that if you're healthy and you're like dedicated to the game, you don't have time for that. So self-care, absolutely. Like I am the self-care queen. I'm able to
Live for that.
yeah, like have time to cook and have time to take myself shopping or do things that when you're healthy you don't have time to do because you're literally married to the game. So that's something that
That's facts.
I didn't even like really think about that of like other people wouldn't recognize that, but yeah, like self-care is something that you don't have as much time for when you're healthy.
Yeah, I also noticed like on your Instagram you post a lot of like stuff on your stories about like encouraging things and
Yeah.
like mental health awareness and stuff like that, which I
Yeah.
think is really cool to see
Thank
that
you.
you post that stuff. Because I really do think it could like change people's like lives
Absolutely.
without you not even knowing. Like it makes a huge impact, and it also gives people hope. I feel like because like at that point of the injury, I feel like many people would like easily just like give up, go do something else.
Absolutely.
But you have like such a motivational story, and you were so strong that you could continue to end up playing when you got back,
yeah.
and
Yeah. Thank you.
that's not easy to do. That's actually impressive
Yeah.
that you're healthy now and everything's good. So
Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of people reach out to me at times, and they're just like, I love what you post. Like, keep it up. And it's like, okay, like people are watching. I appreciate that. People love what I post, and so that fuels me to do it even more. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome that I do have the platform to inspire and to like keep people motivated, because like it's no secret we go through stuff. We're humans, whatever it is, whether it's injury, family stuff. Like I have the opportunity to give people that little nudge to keep going. So it's special.
yeah, because like I don't know about you guys, but like whenever I'm like see Instagram stories or posts, like I would generally like take my time to like read it all the way and like look at it.
Right.
I'm not someone who just skips,
Yeah.
skipping or scrolling.
Yeah, because
So-
why do you have social media
yeah.
if you do that?
But like looking at your stuff, like that like hits, like that hits so like deep. Like that's like
Thank you.
so real and like
Yeah.
motivates me. So
I appreciate that. I will keep doing it just for you. Yeah.
I think it's good too when people, I know we were talking about people who you've met and things like that, and I think anybody who has a platform in general or anybody looks up to, it's great to take yourself off a pedestal, and I feel when you talk about mental health you're doing that, and you're taking yourself like off this perfect pedestal, and then you're coming back down to, I am a person, I do have problems, I relate to you, and I think people resonate with that, especially with mental health and stuff like that, and coming from athletes.
Right.
It's great to see that from anybody, especially like, I feel like it's such a big deal now when these huge sports players or actors have anything to say about mental health, because it's like, yeah, like, thank you for showing that you're a real person, that you
Right.
have feelings, and it's really important for people.
Right. And I think it's huge that like mental health in sports is finally being talked about. And I think like I'm very proud of the fact that I helped spearhead conversation about that on my team. And I wasn't afraid to like open up the floor talking about mental health. Like I would walk in the locker room and be like, hey, so-and-so, how are you doing today? Hey, I know a family member just passed away, like, do you want to go to lunch?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of influenced almost like a team-wide hug of like, let's be here for each other. Like, we're really here for 4 years, and that's it. Like, I want to make the biggest impact I can. So that's something that I'm so glad that mental health is finally like taking off in sports as it deserves.
Hopefully the men's side can take a little inspo. I don't know,
I know.
anything. I feel like there's always room for talk in men's sports. I feel like we were talking about, not ego necessarily, but I feel like it's hard to be vulnerable as a man, especially when you're at a high level in college, or
Yeah.
always having to have your guard up towards people you're competing against, or who's better than you, or first string, second string, and all that stuff. And maybe, that can be an inspiration for men's sports to be
Yeah.
vulnerable. Because, we all have the
Absolutely.
same feelings at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but it's just a little easy. It's more covered up.
Yeah. It's more
Men's
socially
sports.
acceptable
Right.
for women to talk about their stuff.
For sure.
That's something I talk about to my dad, my boyfriend, like just my guy friends of like,
Mhm.
talk about your stuff. Like, find someone to talk to. And I make sure I make myself available for anyone who like doesn't have someone. Like, hey, I'm always here.
Mhm.
slide in my DMs, text me, call me.
Slide in the DMs.
Slide in the DMs,
She'll
you know,
help
like
you.
Snapchat me, like something like I'm here for you. I want to
Great.
listen to you. So, I don't know. I think
Great to be a person like that in the sports
absolutely.
field. Open arms.
Absolutely.
Adding on to that, you were talking about the men's side of it. I actually starting to see it a lot more now. I know Kyrie Irving was the first guy that popped into my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and how like his mental health. Everyone keeps talking about like how he's going crazy and stuff like this. And
Yeah.
then you got like Draymond Green like trying to support him,
Great.
saying that at the end of the day, we're human. We're not just supposed to be playing basketball like 24/7. So we should like be able to live our lives too. And
Right. And for some reason, I just made a connection in my head, like taking me back to my injury of, I mean, I touched on me wanting to get back to the court so bad. And we're talking about mental health and your identity as an athlete versus what all your identities could be. Like, oh, I love basketball, but it's not who I am. Like, I decided after my surgery that that was the most humbling experience I've ever gone through, and I really was able to step back, being in your bed for 3 weeks and like not being able to leave your place, like people run errands for you. That's a lot of time to think and like
For sure.
self-reflect. So I'm just like, you know what? Why would I risk putting my body on the line to just like have someone run into me and the same thing happens
For
again?
sure.
Like I don't think I am Maddie as a basketball player if I can't rebound and dive on the floor and like set
That's
good
a crazy
screens.
realization.
Yeah, and like take a charge, lay my body on the line for my teammates. So
Mhm.
if I'm too scared to do that, if I'm like risking my health to do that, why am I even out there? So that's like kind of the moment where I realized I'm like, I don't want to play basketball anymore. And that was weird for me to say out loud. I had to call my dad and tell him, and I was crying. I'm like, I don't want you to like think I'm quitting, like. But looking back, like he took it so well. He's like, okay, like I think you could do it, but I will support whatever decision you want. Like I think you could do it, and I think you still have some gas in the fuel tank, like in terms of basketball. But he was so supportive, and everyone in my circle was so supportive of like, you did just have your second back surgery. Like, I'm proud of you for even being able to recognize that you are so much more than basketball. And
For
so in
sure.
talking about mental health, I think it's important to like sometimes evaluate like how high you're putting your sport on your priority list. And obviously it's so important and you want to be the best, but sometimes take a step back and realize like, how much am I pouring into my other cups in life, in my other identities, in my friends, in my family, in my, my faith, in my whatever it is, in my hobbies. So that's something that I learned. That is like something I tell everybody now. Is like figure out who you are outside of your sport. So yeah.
Great advice, literally.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I feel like if you were to remain healthy and never had to go through an injury, I definitely think you would have like a great 4-year season at USC. And I definitely think you could make the WNBA.
I would love to, think of it like that. I appreciate that because that's the goal I have for myself. But God has a crazy way of shaking your life up.
For sure.
Yeah. But I appreciate that. High school was a crazy ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I got to witness that. Like honestly. Like,
Oh, thanks. It was so special.
yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about like, what advice do you have for any like athletes who want to play basketball at like a high level?
I would tell anyone this, and I do tell like any young athlete who's like, what do I need to do to like play D1 or even in college in general, I'm like, you don't need to do anything besides ask yourself, do you love it? Do I have a passion for it? Do I have an absolute burning fire for this sport? Otherwise, you're not gonna make it. You are going to like burn yourself out, and you're going to almost resent yourself for like, why did I ever put myself through this? Like, you have to make sure you love the sport, and then the training, the hours you put into it, the sacrifices you make will all be worth it. But if you don't love the game, there's no point in training to go to college because like you're not going to enjoy it at all. I simply enjoyed it because I loved it. And that's the only piece of advice like I try to give kids.
That's
It's
great.
Like, you have to love it. You can't like it. You can't, okay, I kind of like it some days. I kind of love it these days. You have to love the game you play. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. Yeah.
Yeah, as an athlete, I feel like many athletes can relate when they have like a love and hate relationship with a sport.
Yeah.
Me especially, I did. There's definitely some times where like with baseball, I didn't like feel like it felt more like a job, something that I had to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I kind of like don't want to go to practice this time, or I don't want to do this. And now that I'm not playing at all, like I kind of feel like, man, I wish I could go back and play again and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you really do gotta love it.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, we talked about earlier with you and track of like you loved it, but you're just like, I don't
For
want
sure.
that.
I think I've always realized that, and it's been a great trait that I don't kind of overestimate myself. People can tell you what you want to hear all the time, like we were talking about with colleges and everything like that, but at the end of the day, like if you know it's not something you want to do. I mean, I think that's pretty rare as an athlete to like enjoy something, be good at it, and to also know that like you don't really see anything further with it.
Right. And like Diego, you talked about with baseball, I think there is like beauty in understanding like when you have your time, and that's something I had to fully accept with basketball. I'm like, okay, I did have my glory days a little bit. Like I did have my time where I did what I could with what I had, and like sometimes it's best to end on a good note. And that's what I was like, I don't want to go back out there and like my last memories of basketball be like something where I was trying so hard and I just didn't make it. So I'm like, I had my time, but sometimes it's better to hang up the jersey on a good note.
For sure.
Yeah, because
not only that, like when you were telling your story and kind of what your thought process was, it's like very true and admirable that you would say that like you wouldn't be able to take a charge or play fearless. It's like that's so true, but it's something not a lot of athletes would think about. They would probably put themselves first or be like, my career isn't over, so much to the point where you're going to put your team at risk of losing a game, of doing something important, taking a healthy person's spot who's fully ready to go, and it's a hard decision to make. Obviously, everyone wants to be the star, but to hang that up and to be like, this is for the greater good for everybody else, that's like putting your pride completely to the side and being like, take your, you know what I'm saying?
And it's so hard because you want so badly to be like, I want to be the star. I want to be someone that like people recognize on campus as, oh, you're from the women's basketball team.
For sure.
And so that's what's hard is like I was never that person unless I came back to Fresno. Of, oh, you played at USC. I'm like, well, kinda, like, you know, but
I think again goes into tying your identity with the sport, like for sure.
Like I would much rather be known as the person who was kind and the person who made an impact and the person who never failed to like brighten people's day. Like that's kind of the mark I want to leave on people, whereas some people are still so sport minded, sport driven, and like I want to be known as this. Like I'm so thankful that my injuries happened in almost a, I guess, naive way, but also lack thereof, because like I'm able to take a step back and like make an impact in other ways.
For sure.
Yeah.
Great way to put it.
I want to kind of talk about a little bit of the WNBA. I have some questions for either of you. Did you guys have it? I want to involve everyone.
Okay, I see. I may not know. I may not know much of it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite WNBA player? Someone that you guys watch?
I have no clue. I don't watch any sports anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Besides, like I watched the championship of women's last year. It was a huge thing.
It was.
I don't watch much sports at all, period. So I'm not a good person to ask.
Okay, so I would say I love certain players based off talent, like Asia Wilson, Candace Parker, Chelsea Gray. I really identified with Elena Deladon because she also had back surgery. So I was like, you go, girl. She's like amazing. I love Sue Bird. You know, I could go on about a lot of talent that I admire, but I think my favorite WNBA athlete is Sabrina Ionescu.
Same.
We both played for Cal Stars, and like she's a good family friend of mine, and you know we're like good friends to the point where like I could hit her up, and she's always handled herself so well and with class, and she's someone that I kind of saw myself being like on just a smaller scale. Like she's awesome, and she's just such a good person. And like that's something you can't really say about everybody. So she is my favorite athlete just because she's a good person and she can ball out.
We're running out of time here, guys, so we're gonna wrap it up with one last question I have.
Okay.
For the people that don't know who you are, Maddie, what would you say for anyone that asks, like, who is Maddie Campbell?
That's deep. That is very deep.
That's gonna take the whole time she has left.
I would say like people know me as this, but I would love to be known as this. Like I would say people know me as someone who played basketball at Clovis West and then played basketball at USC. Simply that. I would say I would like to be known as like someone who played basketball, but someone who was a good friend and like cared about others and like advocated for certain things and had fun with life and like was really happy, and like that sounds kind of deep and almost like whoa, but I think more people should strive to like literally be known as something so simple as like trying to be happy, because reality, like most of us these days struggle to find that happiness. And so yeah, I did play basketball, but that was one part of me. So that's a very deep question.
I think that was a great answer, though. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it is simple, but I think that's the biggest thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think if a lot of people adopted that mindset, like more people did, I think the world would be a better place, for sure.
Thank you for coming on, Maddie.
No.
Thank you
You've
so
been
much.
an amazing guest.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
so
that was
much
the
for having me.
Might have a
greatest
part
time.
2 coming out.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's it
Yeah.
for all, guys. Until next time.
Thank you for
Peace.
listening.
Fight
Thank
on.
you for having me. Yeah,
Fight
fight on.
Oh, God.